Okay, so let's get started here. We are going to highlight our wonderful blog for you. How many of you have been to our blog? Okay, so quite a few have not. So I think we're going to give you some good stuff here. I want to give you a little bit of an overview of why we started this in the first place. A couple years ago, we started using a marketing tool called HubSpot that allows us to collect all kinds of information from our website, from people that visit the website. It allows us to track leads better and a whole bunch of stuff that helps the marketing program. And one of the things when we first started using HubSpot that the consultant we were working with asked us to do was to start a blog. And the main purpose that he wanted us to do that was to improve SEO, all these new vocabulary. Who knows what SEO is? One person. Okay, good. I thought that might be the case. Okay, because I didn't know what it was either. So SEO is search engine optimization. And that means when you do a Google search, it means how high you rank on that search. So for example, if you do a search on how to train your dog, you get, you know how this looks because you do it all the time. You get like all these things, and usually you look on the first page. What I do is I usually look on the first page and I choose like 3 that look interesting and I open them in new tabs and check them out and then delete this page, right? Close it out. That's what most of us do. So we want to be on the first page because if you're down here on all these pages, you don't get very much exposure, okay? So search engine optimization are things that we can do. This is the short version, and there's a lot of more complicated answers. But in a nutshell, it's trying to get us higher up on that list, okay? So that when people search for things related to us, that ICES is going to come up in that search. And having a blog is one of the things that can help. I think I read there's like 200 factors that Google uses to determine rankings. They got all these algorithms and whatever. But anyway, having a blog is one thing that's really helpful. So we started this blog, and initially it was like sort of all the things you would expect, how to host an exchange student and why hosting an exchange student or whatever. But then as we've kind of gone along, we've sort of branched out and we've accidentally discovered some really fun and very beneficial things that have come from the blog. So we do blog posts on student experiences. We do it on host family experiences, okay? Sometimes we will interview a student and write up a post about some of their experiences. All of our students of the month get a blog post featured specifically about them. We've done host family highlights where we did one on a family that had a lot of kids. We did one on a family that had young kids. We did a blog post on empty nesters, okay? So different types of things that we can use, and we'll talk about how to use them a little bit later. We do some that are just on cultural learning, things like the gratitude session that Brenda did this morning. There is a blog post about that we have done, and a lot of other things that are related to culture in general, because we all know that most Americans aren't very culturally literate, right? That's just unfortunate, one thing about us. But we're working on that. That's one of our roles, all of our roles. All of our contest winners, we feature them on the blog. When we do photo contests, we do a blog post with the winners. We did that pet photo contest. All the winning entries go on the blog. So a lot of things like that, we feature them there. We've done some posts on country-specific info. So Brenda has done these, like Make a Friend in Spain, and it talks a lot about Spanish culture and what you can expect if you host a student from Spain. We've done it for Italy, for what other, Korea, I think? No?
Yeah.
Korea?
Yep.
Okay, so some country-specific information. We've done some blog posts that are just kind of generally directed about the benefits of youth exchange, how it benefits families, how it benefits communities. We actually did one where we had an American student, my daughter, who had studied abroad and came back, and she had to write a paper for college that was how being an exchange student increased her employability. I said, would you please send that to me so I can put it on the blog? So she did, and we did. And then we've got some blog posts that are student and host family support. So these are directed and designed for host families and students that give advice, tips, suggestions, and information that will help them have the best experience they can have. Again, similar to what the gratitude session.
Emotional bank account.
Or the emotional bank account, those kinds of things that we can refer our host families and our students to. So these are some of the areas that we've branched out over the last 2 years as we've been developing the blog. And we've had a lot of fun with it. But as we've continued to write these posts, both of us have discovered some unexpected and very beneficial ways to use it. So that's really what we want to share with you today. So I'll let Brenda start here.
Okay, so I want to share my true story activity, okay? Now, where does this come from is that I was handling problems for many years, and I have all kinds of bad stories to tell of the kids who have done horrible things and what happened to them. And I've used those stories for many years to, strike some fear into the hearts of the students that I train so they understand the things they need to avoid. But I've had people talk to me about, especially, of course, agents, they don't want it to all look scary and bad. They need it. Come on, Brenda, you've got to give us some good stuff. You've got to give us some happy stories. Fortunately, in the blog, there are all these great true stories of students of the month, all right? So the kids really do, and I've started to use them, and I've realized they really crave heroes and role models who've gone before and can tell them wonderful things, all right? So we have, just as an example, I just recently did a workshop, a Zoom workshop, featuring 5 students. Ivana was one of them. And each student, what I did is, well, I will admit, I started off the presentation by telling 2 or 3 bad stories. And then I said, but now I'm going to tell you some really good stories and give you examples of kids who did it good. So what I did is I just read her story that Carrie wrote up, and I took some notes on it so that I could just kind of tell them the story of Ivana. And I just told them, how great her year was and how much her family loved her and just some features from that story. And I told them she was Student of the Month. And I said, do you guys know what that means to be Student of the Month? Do you know what Ivana got for being Student of the Month? And then I told them about her gift card and things like that, which was really encouraging. And then I went ahead and did a little activity. This is on Zoom, so it's so accessible to all of us. I said, first, this is before the activity. What did her host mom say about her? This is where I took out quotes of what Ivana's host mom says. She's always willing to try something new, even if she's scared or nervous. She is dedicated to school, gets her work done, and is always willing to help her host sister and brother if needed. Isn't that precious? She jumps in and helps with chores without asking, and she helps with the animals. She does more than we expect because she wants to be part of the family. So we talk about this. And I explained to them different aspects of things I've already been telling them about gratitude and how these are ways that Ivana showed gratitude. Pull out my little piggy bank. These are ways that Ivana put lots of deposits into her host family's emotional bank account. And then I asked them, what do you think is the most important thing that Ivana did that her host mother mentioned? And I go ahead and give them some choices. She spends time with the family. She tries new things, helps those host siblings, helps around the house, and she's proactive, something I really talk about with my kids. They've explained to them what proactive means, and we review it here. Now, the point of putting all these things up here isn't that one thing is more important than the other. It's just that I want the kids to interact with this material and to give me a choice. And then we talk about what each item means as they choose it, as it comes up in the chat, and I'm reading through it with them. And then I explain to them that all of these items are important. But it's really good for them to be thinking about, which ones are more or less, and then trying to do all of these things. We also did a host family spotlight, okay? In the host family spotlights, you'll also find host families that were happy with the student. So we got to meet Santi, who went with a very large family, the Bairds. This was their all-time favorite story because they couldn't believe how Santi adapted to this family. I got to tell some fun stories about him and then share it with them again. What they said about him, you can go into the blog and read it and find out what they said about Santi. And we go ahead and ask, what was most important? What do you think was most important? And they get to pick. They get to think about it. They get to work with that information. So you can use Zoom to do this with your kids. Once a week, don't try to make long Zooms with the kids. A 15 or 20-minute Zoom once a week to feature a role model student. You don't even have to make a PowerPoint. You can just open up the blog when you share your screen with Zoom. Show them the pictures in the post you want to talk about and rave about that student. And then ask them to put in the chat what they like best about the story. Then Ask them to read that story this week and give them 2 or 3 questions. You can send those questions by Instagram, by WhatsApp, by Facebook Messenger, whatever works for you, right? So without the PowerPoint, ask them, or with or without, what did you learn? Write your answer in the chat, all right? And then I like to give them a follow-up. If you send them the link to that blog post, I almost guarantee most of them are going to click on that link because they're curious. They want to know about that kid. They want to find out what that kid did, what else happened, and maybe even throw something out there to tease them. By the way, Santi got to go on a really cool trip with his host family, and you might want to read about it, right? So using the blog to promote ICES locally is the next great way to use the blog, and Carrie's going to talk about that.
So in addition to working as a training director, I do work as a local coordinator in my community. I place students. And so the blog has been like this surprising, really cool tool that I've been able to use to promote the program locally. Now, one of the ways I do that is just to generate interest in hosting. And there's a couple concepts here that I think are important. I mean, Brad talked earlier about the importance of having a story. Well, this blog is just loaded with stories for you to use, and they're all true. But one of the things that makes something resonate with people is when it is a personal story, okay? We can say to someone, oh yeah, even though you have young kids, it would still be a great experience to host because your kids will learn from your exchange student or whatever. You know, you can go through all the pros of that. But when you hand them somebody's story, then instead of just your facts, this is true experience. And so it carries more weight with people when they hear and read this. And the other thing is published information. Now, we all know that anybody can publish anything on the internet anymore, and it really doesn't make it any more real. I mean, we see that all the time. But for some reason, mentally, if it's published, it carries more weight. So when you direct someone to the blog and they see this published story, it has more validity and more value to them. So that's one of the benefits of using the blog posts. Okay, so we're talking about generating interest. Now for Mother's Day, we did a blog post called A Tribute to Host Moms. And I sent an email out to all of the students on program and invited them to submit a picture of them with their host mom and then 1 or 2 sentences about why their host mom is special. And then we put all of these together in a blog post, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. Okay, so one of my local students actually did this. And one other thing about when we publish a blog post, we share that blog post to all of the ICES pages, Facebook pages, to the main one and then all the state pages. You've probably seen that. They all end up there. So since one of my local host moms was featured, I went ahead and I posted it, shared that to my personal Facebook page, and I tagged the host mom, okay? I love this post, so many sweet, heartfelt messages. Be sure to check it out, Sandra Sanders. That's the host mom. Okay, so now I've got this advertising, and again, this is not, you need to host, but this very clearly says, exchange students are awesome, and they do show gratitude because look. Okay, so I thought that was great, and I did get likes and comments, even by people that don't host or whatever. But the thing that surprised me was kind of where it went from there. So this is the actual post. That's the host mom and the student. And she said, I think my host mom is special because she's a generous woman. She's devoted to her family and her job. She's hardworking. She never complains about anything, but she faces everything with a smile on her face. I really appreciate what she did for me during this year. Now, for this host mom, Sandra, do you think she's more or less likely to host next year after that? Right. She feels so appreciated. And for somebody who is a 3 on that interest meter, that's going to move them to have a more favorable impression of exchange students and hosting. But then here's what's happened with that. I went to Sandra's page, and I did this just in preparation for this. And these were the comments. No, not Sandra's page. This was off my page. These were the comments that came. Now this is a past host family that doesn't host anymore for a variety of reasons. But she put, I love it that I still get calls from my daughters from other countries. Here we've got this lady who doesn't work for ICES advertising for us, like promoting us, right? And then, of course, the host mom, she responds back, how sweet. Thank you, Ilaria, for your kind words. It has truly been a wonderful experience having exchange students in our home, because Ilaria was the 3rd. We have been so blessed with such amazing young adults. Now, if I tell a prospective host family that this is the wonderful part about hosting, they might believe it, they might not, but they know I'm trying to get them to host. But when they see this host families saying, this is a wonderful experience and this is why, that carries so much weight. This is just like gold for marketing your program. Okay, remember we're talking about generating interest. How many of you guys read this blog post? Okay, this is one of our most read blog posts. So I'll tell you the story in a nutshell. The man there is Bob. This is also in my local area. He was a host dad. He was a single guy, and he hosted a boy from Italy. And the boy's mother in Italy was single. And as the host families and the natural parents do, they started Skyping. I started seeing stuff on Facebook. I'm like, what the heck? Is this a joke? And so anyway, pretty soon it was certain that it wasn't a joke. Well, it went on and on. They kind of courted from between Italy and Oregon for 4 years. And they did eventually get married. So we did a blog post. Boy, did we do a blog post, because really, I mean, this is what everybody says. Seriously? This really happened? Even John said that. I've never even heard a story like that. I mean, this was the coolest story ever. And they were thrilled to be interviewed. So we wrote a blog post. Now, we did put in the blog post, if you host an exchange student, we are not going to promise you that we're going to find your soulmate, okay? That's not part of it. But people that would never read anything that says host an exchange student, they were reading this. And I shared this blog post into community groups that have nothing to do, I mean, they're just community groups, like there's a yard sale over here this day, shared it in there, and I got so much feedback from those, because this is like, I mean, really? That really happened? And it did. So they still live near me. Okay, and then this is another one of our really popular posts, and it was Americans Do the Strangest Things. Now, doesn't that make you want to click on it and read that post? And many, many people did. So everything that we do in the blog is not directly related to hosting an exchange student, but it is in some way related to culture, to kids, whatever, a lot of different ways. And some of these kinds of posts are intended to draw in an audience that is not going to click on something that is directly related to hosting an exchange student, in an effort to move them along that meter closer to a 10. That was just funny. Okay, another reason that it's beneficial is because when they go to the blog, this little chat bot pops up, and it gives them the option to get more information about any of these. Okay? Now, as you know, a lot of times we don't want to be just like hounding people with information, so you may not, even if you were talking to some of these people, have the opportunity to really present all of this. But when they go to the website, they have, in a very non-intrusive way, they have the opportunity to learn more about our program. I will mention real quickly also, the girl in the middle was a past exchange student that came back and went to the University of South Carolina and became the first international student to be elected as the student body president of the University of South Carolina. She just graduated this last spring, so we did a blog post on her as well. She traded in her Australian accent for a Southern accent. It was hilarious. But anyways, okay. And then questions and concerns. You know, if you're talking to people about hosting, they have these questions or concerns about what it's going to be like for them. Would an exchange student enjoy living in a big family? What if I can't commit to a whole year? My husband is reluctant to host. Have you guys all heard all of these? Yep. Yeah, we totally have. Now, you can overcome the objections, absolutely. But again, when we've got these personal stories and published information, it gives it more credibility and more value to our host family leads. So here's an example. Would an exchange student enjoy living in a big family? Again, I directed people to the host family spotlights. This is a host mom of 7 kids. Her husband travels for work, like for weeks at a time. Military, and she hosted. And so we want to see, what does a student think about being put in a placement like this? Well, that looks pretty fun. And then here's the quote from the student. First of all, we chose a student that is a good fit. Okay, he is one of 5, he has 5 siblings. And then we looked at the benefits that he stated in his own words. They helped me stay busy. There's always someone to do things with. They talk with me a lot, which helped my English. So instead of just saying to someone, these are all the reasons that a student would be okay with a big family, you hear it directly from a student, and it gives it more value. What if I can't commit to a full year? We've got a great post about being a welcome family that goes through a lot of the most valuable information. What it is, hosting for 4 to 8 weeks, A great option for families who like the idea of hosting but can't commit to a full year. A great option for families who want to try out hosting without committing. And this is the one I like, the heroes of August, okay, which is what our welcome families are. So you can direct someone to this post and they can read about it. Now you can give them information, but like we've talked about in the follow-up session that I did yesterday, people don't remember everything you say. And so when you're able to refer them to this, then they can go back, they can read it at their leisure and get all that great information. I'd like to host, but my husband is reluctant. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over the years. So we had Brad write a post. How many of you guys read this one? Dad to Dad? Okay, it was very fun. If you start reading it, you'll finish reading it because it was very fun. It was from a dad's perspective, and it talks about why hosting is great for the dads. You have no idea what you're missing. Your fun family memories and traditions become new again. You become the cool dad. To your children, you're the dad that said yes when you could have said no. And then Brad's favorite, a fresh audience for dad jokes. Okay? Okay.
They haven't heard them yet.
We're back to Brenda here.
All right. Okay, so, this year is like, I've never done this before, but you really need host families out here. And I know that because I've even signed some of them up in Spain. And so I agreed to try to help. And then ICES agreed that I could do that, right?
That's right.
So I have an ICES email. I'm super excited about it, actually, but I'm finding out what a job it is to do it. So I've actually prepared emails to send to families. And so I just want to share with you, I don't know if you know that I used to be a journalist, and so I have a little writing experience. And I've tried to put together some emails that work pretty good, but especially I've tried to add into my emails some hyperlinks. So instead of sending people a big, fat, long link to a web, like one of the blog pages, which doesn't look good in your email, I hyperlink it. How many of you hyperlink? Okay, good. But some of you don't. So I want to show you how to do that. So in other words, I put here, I collaborate with International Cultural Exchange Services, and that takes people straight to the web page. And you can find out who I am and find out more about this project here. Make a friend in Spain, because I'm really going after the Spanish kids, as you can imagine. And that links to the video that I made, Make a Friend in Spain, which includes 3 exchange students telling their story, and I did it in Spain, and it's been quite a popular little video. So in the emails, this hyperlinking here, basically, what we're going to do to create a hyperlink is highlight the text that you want people to click on, okay? And then you're going to come up here, you're going to look for this little symbol right here, okay? I guess we have a pointer here. Oh, sorry, whoops, I don't know what I did. Oh, well, that was crazy. Sorry. All right. I thought I was so smart. I can create a hyperlink, but I can't use the remote. Okay, don't worry about that. That's not a big deal. We'll just kind of get a review here, everybody, all those great stories, because I'm not going to go over here to do it. Okay, so to generate interest. Great. Sorry about that. All right. Well, anyways.
You're almost there.
We're almost there, yeah. And it really is a lot of great stuff here, isn't it? Okay. So there we go. All right. So basically, you're looking for this symbol up here in your text options, and you have to click on that little symbol. That's your hyperlink symbol, and it's in all kinds of different email platforms, and it's even in Word when you want to create a hyperlink in Word or in any document. Once you know how to make a hyperlink, you're going to find that pretty much everywhere you are, you can make hyperlinks. So you'll click on that right there. You see that little 2 things linked together. And then this box will pop up in some form or another, depending on what platform you're using. And it's going to ask you what address you want. And you're just going to paste the web address or the YouTube address or whatever it is you want people to get when they click on that text in your email. And then once you put that address in there, the OK will be, you can click on it. Right now it's not because you haven't put anything in there. I didn't. So then you'll click OK. And see, that's the web address that I took and I put into the address box, into there. And then you click OK, and then you will get your hyperlink. Your text will be automatically hyperlinked. It'll be right there. Just people can click on it, okay? And then another thing I do that's helpful, since I'm using that same basic template over and over again, you can copy and paste text that has hyperlinks already done, and that'll just paste into your next email. Okay, so that's really nice too. You don't have to keep on doing this over and over again. You create that template and you've got different articles that it's linked to, and then you just keep using that over and over again and adapting the overall email to what you need. Okay, any questions about that? All right, well, you can also Google that, how to create a hyperlink. And now that you know what it's called, that'll be good. So.
Or you can email me at training and I'd be
There.
happy to create something for
That's
that.
great.
Okay. So we're going to give you guys a little opportunity here. There's a few things that, that we would like your help with, because as I mentioned, our plan for this blog has sort of evolved over time. It wasn't like a really structured thing where we really knew where we were going. We've just kind of gotten there accidentally, but we're really happy that we have because it's been so helpful. So some things that we would like to hear from you are some ideas for topics for blogs, for blog posts. And we would love to have some guest bloggers. Now, I did put a little blurb in the newsletter a couple months ago asking for guest bloggers, and I got 0 response. But I know maybe some people don't, read all the way down to the end of the newsletter or whatever. But if you have, there's a few things I'll mention. One is that if you have cool stuff going on in your area that you think would be worthy of a blog post, please let me know. We had the host dad and the natural mom that got married. That's probably the best. I don't know that we'll ever top that one, but it was pretty cool. But if you have a host mom who is being recognized nationally for something, or if you have maybe a host family that's in some kind of crisis and the student is doing something great to help, or if you have a local coordinator that has done something that just has a lot of interest, these really standout stories, please let me know about it. I won't ask you to write. I know I've learned a lot of people are really afraid of writing, but what I usually do is I schedule a Zoom call with somebody, I interview them, and then I write the post. And usually I let them, especially if it's an interview, I let them read it first to make sure everything is accurate, okay? So if you have stories and topics, also if you have topics, if there's things you think, wow, I could really use a blog post about this, let us know and we can get that in the schedule. And then we really would love to have guest bloggers. So if you have host families that love to write and are good at it, or maybe if you're a writer and you like writing, please refer those people to us or let me know about that, because the more variety we can get on the blog, really the more interesting it is. And honestly, it's also a little bit less work for us if we don't have to write all those posts. So it is kind of time consuming, but it's definitely been worthwhile. So if we just want to throw out some ideas, if you have any, we would love to hear them right now.
Yes.
Do you have a story about a host family child that became an exchange student?
Interesting. Or even that went to visit the kid. Yeah, okay. So U.S. siblings who, let's just say go abroad. Is that okay? That could be cool.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
How about schools that host quite a few students?
Okay, so schools.
To recognize schools that are going above and beyond.
Oh, that's a good idea. And I do want to mention another way that I actually used it this last year. The girl that I showed you, Ilaria, that recognized her host mom, the school didn't want to take her because of COVID. They didn't want to take any exchange students. And we had a blog post that said, what was it called?
Reasons to host. Remember?
It was the one about why are they still coming, or why
Yeah.
do they want to come? Why
Yeah.
do it's
Why do
something about
students
why
wanna
do the
come?
students still want to come?
Still wanna come.
And it listed out the reasons why students come in a normal year, and surprisingly, students could fulfill all of those things even in a COVID year. It looked a little different, but they really could. So I sent that post to a principal, and he changed his mind and took the student.
Oh.
I sent that post to a host family also, and I think they probably would have hosted anyway, but anyway, it's been really beneficial. So if you have some of these things, they're really great resources to send to students and families. Mm-hmm.
Repeat everything that the people are saying.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Good.
Okay.
So basically, we have the cool stories from the area that you're asking for. U.S. siblings who go abroad would be a great idea. A lot of them, well, not a lot, but some of them go and visit the families in the other countries, and maybe some become exchange students, which would be super cool. Students or schools that go above and beyond the Call of Duty. Yeah? Andrea?
I was just going to mention, I have a field manager, and they hosted, and her son went through ICES, and he's in the Netherlands right now.
Belgium.
So, Belgium?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's probably not a ton, I just wanted to throw that.
Yeah, we would love to have Outbound.
Here's
Here's some of the
that-
categories that I think we kind of started with this at the beginning.
She's on here then. That's good. We're gonna take a picture of this. Oh, yeah.
What about families that have hosted multiple siblings?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Families.
And as far as guest bloggers, another thing to think about is if you know someone that runs a blog, even if it's not related to this, but maybe one of your host families or a local coordinator that has their own blog. I know a lot of times bloggers will do guest posts on each other's blogs, so that would be another good place to go.
It helps them also get higher in the search engine.
Right.
Some international students have their own blog, so can
Oh.
we link their blog to our blog?
Well, we won't actually link it. We might have them do a blog post and we would post it on our website. The problem with linking to their blog is we don't have any control over what they post, and if, then we can get a little.
Somebody back here. Yeah.
As far as like more lighthearted posts, maybe you can kind of set something out to students about what's their favorite food that they've had since they've been here. Because I know a lot of my families were shocked that my student was obsessed with ranch. They thought ranch was everywhere.
Oh, that's a great idea. That would be really fun. The food posts have been popular. We've done a few of them where we've done highlighted recipes and had students and host families cook them.
It's
and
super fun,
They've been
yeah.
really fun.
What about long-term relationships?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
families that have hosted, kids like I've got a student that we hosted 14 years ago that, still stays in real close contact and.
Oh, I've got a name for that one.
different ideas, things that, like traveling back and forth and.
Absolutely. So if you have a host family that goes to the wedding of their student that they hosted 10 years ago, yeah, that would be an excellent post.
Like Margaret. Hosting
Like
is forever.
Margaret.
On the same.
Oh,
Right,
sorry. Okay, we'll go you first and then Deb.
I have a host mom who's from Russia. She came as a host student. She came as an exchange student.
Oh,
And then she went home and did her thing and then came back to, we live in Wyoming. And now she's going to host her first exchange.
oh, would you email me her information? Yeah, we'll do that one for sure. Okay, hang on, Deb.
Sometimes people that have hosted for a long time, their first students are parents now and became host grandparents.
Yep,
Oh, yes.
that's
Okay.
excellent.
I have host grandparents. Exchange grandparents.
I have adopted children from Korea, so we got into hosting. The first two students we hosted were from Korea, so that they would know someone from their home country.
Oh, that's excellent too. Then you share that one into all your adoption communities.
I have a potential family who wants to really host, but they're getting married very soon.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if you guys have any stories or people who are like. I do. Okay, yeah, I mean, I think it would be cool to be able to send that to people like, oh, I can't see getting married and
Right.
having kids soon. So I know that it's like the newborn for people with young children, but
Right, and when you have those kinds of things, I mean, with all the placements that we have, somebody will have that story of the family that got married while they were hosting, or the family that had the baby while the student was living with them, and those are huge human interest stories. Kim, did you have one a while back that we didn't get to?
I was just going off of hers. I have, one of my families this year was a host, or a student in Las Vegas as a high schooler, and now she's hosting her own.
Oh, that's great.
It's cool.
Okay, in the back?
Wait a second. So,
Deanna?
what was that? Well, you sent her a link on that one. It's kind of like this one.
My host mom was a foreign exchange student.
Okay, so like this one.
Yes.
Okay, so,
Okay, Deanna.
My oldest son is getting married next summer, and he has asked one of our former exchange students to be one of his.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
oh.
Did you hear this? You've had that, yeah.
Who is that?
So that's Deanna.
Okay.
So sometimes when we have these things where, she says it and then other people go, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Then we do a post about that topic, and
Yes.
which is even better because then you see this is not just an isolated incident. This really happens quite a lot. Okay, here.
So I don't know if I can put it in the right words, but I'm crazy at Christmas time. Like, my house is over the top. And so when you look at pictures, when I look through profiles, I see like just a little stick Christmas tree.
Right.
And so for the student's perspective to see like decorating an American home for Christmas, mine is over the top, maybe kind of get the difference.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
maybe a
definitely.
Christmas or a holiday themed vlog or something.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Definitely.
Oh, Molly? Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So the global ambassadors, you run out of room there?
yes, that's good.
Okay, back in the back there?
I'm not sure if you guys have done a blog post on this, but like love languages and emotion or personality like traits. And
Ah,
Yeah, that would be good.
adults and children, still kind of exhibit those things and how you can use them as a host family with your students.
oh, that's a great idea. That would also be a great session at conference.
Okay, so love
Wouldn't it?
languages, personality traits, and what else was it?
Love languages, personality traits, and,
I mean, just like those things. Like,
Okay,
okay?
definitely, definitely.
Have, and I don't know, a post on single families?
We do. We do. Brenda did one on a single mom,
Oh,
and the mom
yes.
even made a video for us. It was
Oh,
great. In fact, she used it. I think it originally was in this, and then you took it out. But
Yeah,
yeah, we do have one.
It's a beautiful story. That was one
It's
of my
great.
kids' favorites too, because the girl that came, second girl, was a scholarship. It was amazing, the bond. And the mom went to Brazil to see the family.
Yeah, Christy.
I know in our earlier class, we had mentioned how do you market for host families that have had a bad experience? What about finding host families that had a bad experience, and because the coordinator was supportive and worked through it, they decided to host again and had a really good experience?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's a great idea, actually, because we all know it happens.
But piggyback off of that too, like a lot of us who are, local coordinators or, I've had a student that asked to, she wasn't a good match for my family. That doesn't mean I was a bad family. but,
Right.
Something along that line too of how, it's not always the best match and how we can overcome and still, those families can still host.
Definitely.
I like that.
Deb?
Some families will have the objections that they don't want to host because they have a wedding in the family.
Mhm.
Many families have exchange students and they have them as attendants. So could we do something about exchange students and weddings?
Yeah,
Yep.
we got that one here too. That's good. I'll double it.
So I have an only child, but through hosting, she has.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
She really needs it. Like she walks through the house and I'm talking to brother, I'm talking to sister, whatever, and this is like over an 8-year experience. So my only child has really never felt like an only child.
That's awesome.
So I think it's cool maybe from a, maybe from a parent and sibling perspective as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I have a couple things. We did a little thing, our German boy came back, and we surprised our kids. We didn't tell them he was coming back, so we videoed him coming through the door.
Oh.
And all the kids at home, and it was really sweet seeing the reaction. They all burst into tears. I mean, they
Aw.
literally couldn't breathe. She was so excited. So that was really a neat video, and I could share that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love that.
Very priceless to see how excited they were to have to come back. And another thing we do as a family with all of our exchanges that we post personally is that we have a Snapchat, a family Snapchat with all the kids and myself. And so we every single day with the kids, all of them are connected and they share pictures and videos.
Wow.
and they
That's
talk
great.
on there, so it keeps us really close all the time, just having a little Snapchat together.
That's awesome. Uh-huh.
My son who just graduated for his graduation, he has a plane ticket to Spain and he's going to stay with 6 exchange students.
Oh,
Oh,
that
we
would be fun to highlight.
Definitely, we have to do this story, and we got to get pictures and videos of each little place. Don't you think?
So, no. So another thing that I will mention is like
First and last, Jill Bonin.
Brenda is really good at teaching people to do videos. So we do prefer to have videos. And she's really good at teaching them. But if we have people that are too shy and don't want to do that, we can get by without it. But we really do love having videos. And then you've got videos to link also, which are even more effective than print. I saw a hand back. Oh, there we go. Jennifer.
I was actually just thinking kind of Mama Lish here
Uh-huh.
has her student from Brazil that came and never went home and did a university, like, something like that would be
Wow.
a cool.
Yeah, the students can't.
Absolutely.
And then also highlighting, parents, I don't know if you've done this in the past, but parents who double host, families who double
Yes, we did. We did a post on that. I think we've done a couple maybe on that. And another thing that we do is if we have a post, a post that is like the Welcome Family one, we wrote that 2 years ago, and then we're able to republish it so that it pops up as new again, and we reshare it again. So guess, in August, guess what happens? That one gets refreshed. And we can go through and make some updates and change out the pictures or add information or whatever we want to do. But we do often do that. Mm-hmm.
5 years ago, I decided to have 2 girls at one time, and at that same time, I was also getting married. And my husband didn't have any children at home, they were all grown. So we went from having no children at home to having 3 teenagers, 15, 16, and 17, in the house at once. Wow. It was a tough year, but those girls come back all the time.
That's great. Okay, last one here.
That's great.
That would really be beneficial, something else like the hurricanes, the disasters,
Oh,
weddings, new babies, bringing the kids into our homes so that we don't have all those rejections of,
Right.
I'm getting ready to do this, I've got this, we're moving this summer, those kind of things. Bad experience is still turning really good.
That's a good idea. That's a great idea.
There was one more.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
sorry. It
That's
just
okay.
made me think about it. So one of my host families last spring lost their baby. She was 9 weeks old. And they just decided to continue to let the foreign exchange student that came in August 2020 come anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And he just left. And when he left, they all said, we didn't know we needed it. We didn't know he could bring healing. We didn't know that he would, help us focus on the future now instead of on the past. And in April this year, they had another baby. So it was like this big healing moment, and they loved each other. But he helped them to heal, even though they would have and should have probably said no.
Right.
They let him come anyway, and he was the Band-Aid that their family needed.
That's great. So I'm sure that as you go through your days and your weeks and your months, you're going to think of more things. So don't forget to just shoot me an email and let me know your ideas or your people that you would like me to talk to, and we will try and get them on the schedule. We've got so much great material now. This is wonderful. So we're going to wrap it up because we are out of time, but thank you so much for coming, and I hope this was really helpful to you.